All right, Delany and David, it's all you.
All right, so good morning, everyone. We are giving a presentation on instructional tips and suggestions for a virtual synchronous classroom, CPS classroom. Our purpose today is to deliver synchronous practices from a CPS math teacher and a future administrator from our summer school experience involving Schoology. With early exposure to Schoology, we had the opportunity to develop and suggest rigorous synchronous lesson delivery that can be applied to all instruction. So we're meeting our presenters. Delany?
I am Delany Bon. I know a lot of you were talking about the video session. I feel like I've kind of become an online celebrity within the city. I do hold a bachelor's degree from Duquesne University. That's a picture of me and my son. I spent time in the summer working as a summer school curriculum writer, as well as the Algebra 1 teacher for summer school. So we definitely had a very unique experience with Schoology, one that I don't think anybody else in the city has truly had. So I'm excited to share some of our tips and strategies to have a successful virtual session.
Okay, my name is David Albor. I'm going into my second year of Old Dominion's CPS cohort for educational leadership. I have been a TIS, a Technology Integration Specialist, for 14 years, all at a Title I school. And over the summer, I served as a summer admin intern for Fallon. Okay, so what you've been hearing for the past 2 weeks, as soon as we got back to school, is where are we going with Schoology? What are our goals? How do we implement it? And I've been preaching this as a TIS to my staff, where basically we got to keep it consistent throughout the grade level or department level, keep it simple for our families and our students, and make it a routine where it's almost like a muscle memory in regards to Schoology. So today you'll have instructional tips from Ms. Bond, and then you'll have some administrative suggestions from myself in regards to Schoology in a synchronous classroom. And you've seen this before, where it's an effective and engaging learning opportunity to start with the pre-assessments, your hook or warm-up. In this aspect, you're looking for gaps and needs. Delany?
So one of the things the way that we're going to kind of structure this is I'm going to give you 5 tips on how I found it successful to have a synchronous virtual class. So one of the things that I did was I made myself like a little lesson template, and I know people are probably rolling their eyes at me thinking, oh my gosh, this is another form I have to fill out. It's totally just for you, and it's to truly help teachers kind of calm their fears with a synchronous class. You can see a picture of it off to the side. It's also linked in this presentation, so when we share it with you later, you'll be able to get a writable Word document version of it. But in this particular format, if you can see a couple of things that we talked about is definitely take some notes and have those notes there for you while you're having a synchronous class. It's going to help you remember what topics you need to cover today. And then it also has a spot for teacher notes during the meeting. I know in summer school, I had several kids who would say things like, oh, can I have a meeting with you during your office hours tomorrow? And there's a little spot on there that you can jot those down. So that way, you know, when you have 4 or 5 sessions in a row, you're not going to be able to remember exactly what students said in that first session. Also, one of the things that I found incredibly helpful during these virtual lesson templates, in the agenda and examples problem section, I would always write down extra problems. So maybe I only intended to get through 4, 5, 6 problems in a day, but I might write as many as 10. And the reason I did that is then I had this book very handy that when a student came into my office hours and they said, I didn't understand the lesson yesterday, I can flip back to yesterday's lesson and see 6 or 7 more examples that I can help them with. I can also, if the student stays back immediately after class, you don't really have to do any extra prep work. You can have those extra problems there that are similar, but you're not working the same problem out multiple times. And like I said, I kept that on my desk the whole time I'm meeting virtually with the students, so that way I was able to really focus my instruction. David, go ahead.
So then for my suggestion with synchronous classrooms is basically we got to use what we have. So as a hook or as a warm up. So the Google Forms that we've used in the past, you can embed them in Schoology, and that could be your hook to see you're looking for prior knowledge of the content. You could also embed, there's LTI links. Basically, when you add a material in Schoology, there's platforms that are available to you. One of them is EK12, which is basically California's platform in regards to like an adaptive question and answer platform that you could assign to students. And also what I'm including here is that you can embed a Padlet, which is more like a collaboration board, in which you see that little red dot. The kids will click on the red dot right there and basically insert a post, a message, a picture, audio, anything relating to your question that you're asking. So this could be embedded into Schoology, and it's maintaining that synchronous environment for you. Okay, next screen. Delany? Oh, I'm sorry. So with the next component, which is demonstration, we're looking for direct instruction. So either your something for explicit delivery of content, in a sense that you're looking for the ability for the student to kind of go back and review what you're just giving directly. So Delany offered.
So I did use the Zoom whiteboard feature. You'll see 2 pictures here of some actual whiteboard lessons. One of the things that I love about Zoom is you can text or you can save the pictures that put on the whiteboard, and then you can email those or you can put them up in the Schoology classroom. So I have all of those notes that I took, and then as students had questions, I could send them to them through Google Voice or Remind or what have you. That way they had those notes handy. I use the whiteboard feature using my personal iPad, so I had a stylus. If you have any kind of tablet device, you can even do it with your cell phone. You can connect to the Zoom meeting with a second device and then write on the second device, so I can still be presenting up here, but be writing on a tablet or something down below. If you don't have a tablet device, perhaps you have a document camera or other device that you can use in that regard. Sharing your screen of the document camera works just the same. You can write on a piece of paper. I know that a lot of people are struggling with how can I type math onto the computer. So definitely using that Zoom whiteboard. If you don't have a stylus, you can use the computer mouse. It's a little bit more of a learning curve that way. But I highly recommend if you are interested in a stylus, pick one up. It completely changed my teaching.
Okay, so here I offer some tips, some suggestions in the sense that if you have ability to have a second device, I would say that use it like a broadcast station. So let's say you have a Chromebook available, you would put the Chromebook in front of the smartboard, and basically it's like the camera person looking at the scene, like a broadcast. So it's with using 2 devices. You could use the existing smartboard and document camera and your viewing perspective from the student's end, but basically that camera is that second device. Also, you could have Jamboard sessions or Jamboard a file linked in your Schoology materials. And basically it's pre-made, so you could have it where your slide, like little slide sticky note could be in regards to those slides, and then the ILO could be stated. So this is for kind of similar to what Delany was doing, but basically you could use the Jamboard app, and you could add that link to your Schoology course and basically have it where it's there and they're viewing it from that perspective rather than the Zoom session. So you could have either way. So that was demonstration. Now we're going into assigned writing. And here you're looking for reflection of what they just learned. So we recommend discussion boards as a way to reply and connect to see if there's, if they're getting the concept that they're being taught. And then you were looking for some type of engagement from the kids. So there's different methods that we are using in regards to this implementation. Delany?
Excuse me. One of the things that we had talked about at our school specifically is we're talking about the I do, we do, you do, and breaking up our lessons that way. And I know everybody in middle school is thinking, how am I going to teach in 30 minutes? And high school teachers are thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this in 45 minutes? One of the things that I definitely found very successful in summer school is this teacher classroom screen. The link is down below the picture here, but it has several different little widgets that you can put on the screen. You can customize the background, so you can share this with the students, and it has multiple features all in one place. One of which is a student selector, so you can type in all of your students' names, and you can absolutely cut and paste from a class roster on Synergy or Schoology, so you don't have to retype them all. But then click choose, and it's going to select a random student. That way you can call on students just like you would in the classroom, even if you can't see all of their screens at the same time. There's a clock feature, like you can see there in the middle, that was very helpful for the students to see, if they were getting on the class early, what time the class was ending. But the one that I really, really liked is the stopwatch. It's very helpful, especially in a short period of time, like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. If you're going to say, okay, we're going to take 60 seconds and we're all going to solve this problem and then we're going to come back. So you can put that 60-second timer up on the board, or maybe it's 2 minutes or however long you want to do it. And that way they can see that time, and they know the expectation. There's all kinds of different features in there for you to play with. Some of them may be better for in-classroom learning, but it's definitely one that I'm very glad that I found. Also, we had used music over the summer to, in those moments of transition, because that's the times that you're going to lose that student engagement. That's when kids are going to say, oh, well, she's not talking, so I guess I'm done. So we used music. That way they had something to listen to, they had something to do while they were working on a problem, and it just kept their attention and focus.
Okay, so here my suggestion would be, in regards to the discussion board, is that you could use the audio video recording option when you ask the kids to use that, to have an oral and written response to you, okay? So, once you get your kids acclimated in doing this, you would basically tell the kids, okay, go ahead and reply back. They have to write it down first and then respond orally. They hit the record button, and then they have to type in their submission. So basically, it's kind of like you're taking turns in regards to submitting something. And then after they get used to it and acclimated to it, you could add to it a grading rubric that makes it more where, well, they're taking ownership, to having self-efficacy in regards to that, to their own learning, okay? So the questioning that we actually added over the summer are pretty much real world questioning, giving them that experience, relating back to that experience, and then you're actually getting their response in a video and written format. Okay, just tell them to turn off, if you're doing it synchronous, you just tell everyone, hey, turn off your speakers because you're about to record. You just don't want all that feedback coming through at the same time. So then we're on the fourth, which is the interactive exercise, which is basically your practice assignments. You're asking for multiple exposures of this. And so we're going to give you some examples in a synchronous classroom. Delany?
One thing that I definitely used heavily this over the summer was Remind. I used it a lot. That way I could say, hey, we have office hours today, or we have a live class, especially for my middle school friends who may not meet every day. That Remind is going to be very helpful. We also used a final closure screen before we got into the office hours, and I would always put 3 things up on the screen. I would put, what should your student do today? So there's, in middle school, 15 minutes, and in high school, there's 45 minutes. After they end that live Zoom session with you, what should they do? And explicitly say to them, you need to get off the screen and go and do worksheet number 1, or whatever you're having them do. Give them those explicit directions. I would also go ahead and give them the explicit directions for the next day. You want to say, tomorrow, this is what you can expect. In high school, you can say, tomorrow, we'll meet at 10:45, same as always, and we're going to talk about, and you can kind of preview that next topic. That way, they know exactly what's happening in that classroom. They know where they are and where they're headed. You can also give them any kind of reminders or announcements. If you see, I have a little reminder down here at the bottom. This particular day that we didn't have a live Zoom session the next day, but we did have some optional office hours. So I put those there for them. If you want, you can put your remind information. Maybe there's a spirit week going on at your school or something like that. You can definitely advertise those things on that screen. and close out your lessons.
Okay, so with the interactive exercises that you have within Schoology, you know, we did mention earlier, and I saw Tori and Brooke mention it with the Cami assignments. Okay, so that's basically your PDF annotator, so you could write on top of it. Also, what you have in Schoology are Google Documents that you could add as assignments. Basically, these are all teacher-made, and it checks for comprehension. So you're giving them multiple opportunities synchronously to respond back to you and check for feedback, comprehension. Finally, we have your post-assessments, your exit tickets. Your Schoology does an excellent job in regards to your TEI format, you know, but you just have to do that. You got to basically create that, and we are in the process of doing that as well. But that data should be driving your live session and your asynchronous sessions as well. But you're looking for feedback. So Delany offered.
So when we talked about feedback, the discussion board is an absolutely wonderful tool. A lot of people are talking about exit tickets. So maybe at the end of your live session, you want to say, hey, I want to check what you learned. There's a discussion board that goes with today. And that way, that can also be your attendance. You can see which kids were in your live session because you know they did the discussion board that went along with it. If you wanted to, there was a couple people in summer school who also, instead of just using discussion board, also used Remind. So if you have the messaging feature turned on backwards, they can send you a text message. And so some of the teachers were talking about, they would ask a question at the end of the session, and then the students would text the responses to the Remind number. The teacher was able to check them and say, oh, great job, you got the right answer. But that way they were kept private, so that way other students didn't see other answers. And if you don't have that messaging feature, you can also use a Zoom chat. If you have all the students type in their responses to your exit ticket question, and then have them wait to share that answer. So some other summer school teachers talked about, you know, if the question was, how did you feel about today's lesson? She would have the students write all kinds of answers in there, and then would put a timer or a countdown up on the screen and say, okay, we're going to press enter in 3, 2, 1, and then all of those answers would flood in. That way the students had some honesty with their answers and couldn't copy from their friends. The discussion boards are great as well because it takes that synchronous and blends it with the asynchronous, putting them back on Schoology.
So then here I would offer a suggestion of using interactive Google Slides. You could embed that, and you could use Nearpod and Peer Deck. So with Nearpod, it's your interactives are kind of built into your Google Slides, and you can embed that in Schoology. So they're not going anywhere synchronous. So that first picture right there that says Nearpod, all of it's embedded in Schoology, and basically you could get your data at the Nearpod end of it. And then with Peer Deck, it's the same concept. You're using Google Slides, and it's more like you would have to go to that. It's joinpd.com. You would add that link to your Schoology synchronous material listing, and basically they'll go to another platform, and then they're seeing your questions that you're asking in a manner of formative feedback. So those two methods, in addition to Schoology, their TEI questions and everything that we imported over from ExamView, are available to you as an exit ticket. Okay, so some final thoughts. All of this is very vast, and it's just a matter of, and I'm telling my teachers this the past 2 weeks, it's a matter of just kind of being consistent with it, with your delivery, creating a routine, and keeping it simple. So to say that you're doing all these 5 things within your allotted amount of time synchronous, it's hard, especially at my level, at the elementary level. It's just like they're just getting acclimated to coming in and using Schoology. So, and I'm like, yes, I'm not disputing that, but at the same time, give them the opportunity to give them. You have to deliver rigorous content, but just give them time. Just make sure you're using those things, but give them that. They don't have to do it all in one day. Just make sure that you're modeling it and offering it, and build that routine. So it's consistent from everyone's perspective, the whole grade level or department level. And then you're just kind of like, okay, that's exactly, as a parent, that's exactly what you want. You want it to be rigorous at home, and then you want it to be, consistent throughout the building and department and everywhere else. Those are my final thoughts. Delany, did you want to add some final thoughts?
I did see two good questions in the chat that I don't think have been responded to yet. I saw somebody ask, can we use a whiteboard in Google Meet? I saw somebody did say you can use Google Jamboard. Google Jamboard is awesome. You can use Google Jamboard. There's several other apps out there that are very similar to the Zoom whiteboard. I used Zoom over the summer and I did have the Zoom integration. So that's why I went with the Zoom whiteboard. Google is supposed to be, it's one of those viral social media things. One of the changes that they're supposed to be coming out with soon is an integrated whiteboard as well as breakout rooms. I don't have a date on when those will be available in Google Meets, but I know that those two have been district-wide questions. I also saw somebody say, does Nearpod work like Kahoot? Nearpod and Pear Deck, as Mr. Albor had mentioned, they're a little bit different than Kahoot. Kahoot is more of a game. Nearpod and Pear Deck, what they do is in a presentation like this, a Google Slides or a PowerPoint, you can add a screen that asks for student response. And that could be an exit ticket where they actually type in an answer. It could be a multiple choice. It could be a drag and drop. There's lots of different TEIs that you can use, but the students can actually, when in the Pear Deck and Nearpod programs, actually move and do those TEIs, and then you can get that feedback as a teacher, as that formative feedback as you're going.
Right, and the thing is, Nearpod could be embedded into Schoology, so they're not jumping to another tab and going into some platform. It's all viewable in Schoology. Yes,
and another question about discussion boards. Can you hide responses? You absolutely can. So basically, when a kid does a discussion board, before they can see everybody else's answers, when you write the discussion board, at the very bottom of the screen, I think Mr. Albor's pulling it up, at the very bottom of the screen, there are some little gray icons. There's a little guy wearing a graduation cap. By default, he is set and he's like a gray color. If you click it, he turns multicolored, and that little graduation guy says students can view discussion boards before, I can't remember exactly what it says, before posting or something like that. When he's in color, they have to respond before they can see the others. Yeah, there you go.
Basically, when you do that discussion, that button next to that green circle, it's turned off, so it's grayed out. So, and it gives you, when you hover over it, it gives you a totally different message hovering on top in the dark gray box. So when you click on it, it turns on. And then that's the response you want to see, where it says require members to post before. And this is what the kids see. The kids, this is like explaining to your sons not to talk on top of each other. You don't want them to see each other's comments, and you want them to focus on what they're typing in. And if you decide to go oral and written, they're recording themselves and then typing it in, and then they hit post, and then they see everybody else's. So this feature where you turn on that button is vital. I think that's crucial, both synchronous and asynchronous.
I saw somebody mention in there that they were concerned about cheating, and I did want to share with you a summer school experience. One of our discussion boards asked students to define the solution to an equation. And in my head, when I wrote that, I was thinking, oh, they're just going to write x equals 2 or x equals 5. And all of the kids, I had 3 separate kids Google definition of solution to equation and cut it, paste it from Google. And 3 students had the exact same discussion board comment without seeing one another's because it was cut and paste from Google. So it's one of those things that we're going to do everything we can to avoid, and remind them that of your school's honor code policy, that sort of thing. But it's one of those things that we're going to be fighting that battle no matter what we do.
But I would say you add to it a rubric. Add a rubric to that, and then when you want to see that video to see how that kid responds. They're all not going to respond the same way if it's a video, because they're not watching, unless they can't submit a blank video. I would say do those things. Again, you're trying to train them to give an authentic response.
True.
Good question. Any others? Well, I got excited.
I'm trying to read the chat. They fly by so fast.
Yeah, I think that discussion thing is vital, where it reminds me of Flipgrid. So as long as you turn those settings on correctly, you could do it, I think, and then add that rubric. I think we didn't get an opportunity to use the rubric during summer school because we were just trying to do so many things. But I think you know, it's too logical to not think, oh, yeah, let's include that rubric. So,
Right.
you know, so I could see that coming from the curriculum writers.
I see a lot of people asking about all these different programs and stuff that we've suggested. One piece of advice that I'm giving to a lot of people is anything you can do in your classroom, we can make happen in Schoology. It may take another program, it may take a little bit of creative maneuvering, but we can definitely find a way to do just about anything within Schoology. Whether you're doing Google Forms to answer homework, if you're doing a Nearpod, any of that sort of stuff, those resources are out there. Definitely, you know, talk to your TISs and that sort of thing. They have lots more programs. I know we mentioned a couple here in this presentation, but we don't want to overwhelm you with like 86 different things. There's a way to do almost anything. So definitely play around with it. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Right. I would say as a current TIS, I'm going to be giving a lot of training. Virtually, I'm going to give a lot of training, offer it many times. So I'm driving that PD based on what I'm showing, and I'm actually doing this right now. And it's just, and that's what we all need. We need the opportunity to go to your, you know, the TIS offering that to you guys as a staff, and then basically watching that video. If you can't attend that meeting, you're going asynchronous with that PD, and they're showing, you know, Nearpod could be one, Peer Deck could be another session. So there's many things that I believe the TIS can offer now in this situation. So I think it's a great opportunity to get better from all avenues.
I see another great piece of advice down in the chat that somebody suggested. Keep reminding students that there are going to be SOLs at the end of the year. There are still those assessments of their knowledge as they're learning. So it is important for them to actually learn their content and not use those easy way outs, because it all comes out in the wash in the end. I see another question about how do we use exam view on Schoology. I can tell you we were putting them in. It's very easy to connect the two. I'm not sure if there's a training document. As you say, as Fallon said, it's very difficult to explain now, but it's easy once you know what you're doing.
Right. I think that TIS is basically offering that as well in regards to doing it. We were doing it over the summer, and it's actually already in your math curriculum folders. It's already there, but it's not hard. It's something where you have to prep an exam view and then import it. So we'll offer that to you guys. I'm sure Fallon will offer it to you guys, and then at the school level, we can follow up with the TIS.
I think that's all the questions that I see, other than specific questions about how do we integrate certain programs, that sort of thing.
Right. Delany, I wanted to add something that you mentioned. You were saying SOLs. With that, all these items are just making it, we're offering rigorous content. We began by stating that. So I think once we understand it and try to implement it in chunks, we can't just, you know, do it all at one moment. You could see where it's just adding, you know, building to that. And then when we get to that SOL, it shouldn't be as like, oh my God, this is like night and day. It's like we're just building towards it. But I've been telling my teachers for the past 2 weeks, it's just like, hey, it's a process. We just have to be open to everything and just kind of build that consistency. So just seeing it now, September 1st, you could see where by December 1st, all these ideas are kind of like you're putting it in either synchronous or asynchronous, you're kind of implementing it and following through on that. So I just think it's a good opportunity to get better.
I did see one more good question about if we have limited technology because we're teaching from home, don't have a document camera, a tablet, etc. You can do what I did in phase 3, and honestly, it was the easiest thing I ever did. I set up my phone, and I'm going to show you a little demonstration here, kind of like this on a stack of books. So that way my phone camera was going over the edge and turned my phone into a document camera. You can join either a Google Meet or a Zoom twice on the same account. So you can have your computer kind of like we're doing here, and then also have either your phone, a second laptop, another device, any of that sort of thing. And that way you can view, I know a couple people in the summer school class were talking about how they were viewing the chat on their phone. That way they could have, you know, the students' faces here, but the chat here, so it didn't cover things up. Having that second device, whether that's a personal device or a school device, it can be very helpful, especially when we're talking about all this kind of stuff, combining it together.
Okay. any other questions? I think. Trying to see the comments.
Well, Delany and David, thank you so much for your presentation. You guys did an awesome job. You shared so many great tips and advice and strategies for us to use moving forward. And I feel like we might be just a little bit more prepared for what we're coming up to. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.